The wheelchair rolled to a stop beside the empty table, and Jae-hyun's jaw tightened as he checked his phone for the third time in 10 minutes. No messages, no apologies, just the crushing weight of being stood up, again. The other cafe patrons tried not to stare, but he felt their pity like knives against his skin. The great Choi Jae-hyun, feared leader of the Baeko organization, reduced to waiting alone like a forgotten ghost of his former self. He was about to leave when the door chimed, and a woman entered. Deep brown skin glowing under the cafe lights, natural coils framing her face, a small girl's hand clasped firmly in hers. The child's bright eyes landed on him immediately, and before her mother could stop her, she was walking toward his table with the fearless curiosity only children possessed. "Mister, why do you look so sad?" the little girl asked, tilting her head. The woman's horrified gasp followed a split second later, as she rushed forward, apologies already forming on her lips. But Jae-hyun couldn't look away from her eyes, warm, genuine, and completely unafraid of the man everyone else avoided. Imani Brooks had exactly $47 left in her bank account, a fact she tried not to think about as she pushed open the door to Moonlight Cafe with her 6-year-old daughter Aaliyah's hand warm in hers. The interview at the restaurant down the street had gone well, or at least she thought it had, but "we'll call you" rarely meant actual calls. Still, she'd promised Aaliyah hot chocolate if she stayed patient during the interview, and Imani Brooks always kept her promises to her daughter, even when keeping them hurt. The cafe smelled like espresso and vanilla, warm and inviting against the harsh Chicago October cold they'd just escaped. Imani scanned the space, noting the scattered afternoon crowd, college students buried in laptops, an elderly couple sharing a pastry, and a man in a wheelchair positioned near the window, his profile sharp and striking even in the dim afternoon light. "Mama, can I get the one with extra whipped cream?" Aaliyah tugged on her hand, bouncing on her toes with barely contained excitement. "We'll see what they have, baby," Imani said softly, guiding them toward the counter. But Aaliyah's attention had already shifted, her curious gaze fixed on the man by the window. Before Imani could stop her, her daughter had pulled free and was walking straight toward him. "Aaliyah, no," Imani started, but it was too late. "Mister, why do you look so sad?" Aaliyah's clear voice rang out across the cafe. Mortification flooded through Imani as she rushed forward. "I am so sorry. She doesn't understand. Aaliyah, come here right now." But when she reached them, the words died in her throat. Up close, the man was breathtaking. Sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that seemed to see straight through her, black hair styled with precision. He wore an expensive black suit that probably cost more than 3 months of her rent, and there was something in the way he held himself, even seated, that spoke of power barely contained. "It's all right," he said, his voice low and accented, each word carefully shaped. His gaze shifted from Aaliyah to Imani, and she felt the weight of his attention like a physical thing. "Your daughter is observant. She's also supposed to know better than to bother strangers," Imani said firmly, placing a gentle hand on Aaliyah's shoulder. "Come on, sweetie, let's order." "I'm not bothering him, Mama. Look, there's 2 cups at his table, but he's all alone. Someone left him." Aaliyah's innocent observation landed like a bomb in the quiet space. Imani's eyes darted to the table. Sure enough, there were 2 coffee cups. One barely touched, one completely full. The man's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those dark eyes. Pain, maybe, or anger. "Aaliyah, that's enough," Imani said quietly, squeezing her daughter's shoulder in warning. Then to the man, "I really am sorry. We'll leave you alone." "Wait." His voice stopped her mid-turn. "Please, sit." "Oh, we couldn't possibly." "I insist." He gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Your daughter is right. Someone did leave me. It would be—" He paused, searching for the word. "Nice to not waste the coffee I ordered for her." Imani hesitated. Every instinct told her this man was dangerous, not in a threatening way, but in the way of expensive things she couldn't afford to break. Yet something in his expression, that carefully controlled vulnerability, made her nod. "Just for a minute," she said, helping Aaliyah into the chair before taking the other seat. "I'm Imani. This is my daughter, Aaliyah." "Jae-hyun," he said simply. "Choi Jae-hyun." "That's a cool name," Aaliyah declared, already warming up to him despite her mother's warnings about stranger danger. "Why are you in a wheelchair? Did you hurt your legs?" "Aaliyah!" Imani felt heat rise in her cheeks. You can't ask people questions like that. But Jae-hyun's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "It's all right. Yes, I hurt my legs. In an accident. I can't walk anymore." "That's sad," Aaliyah said solemnly. Then, with the lightning-fast topic changes of childhood, "Do you like hot chocolate? That's what I'm getting, Mama promised." "I've never tried it," Jae-hyun admitted. "Never." Aaliyah looked scandalized. "Mama, he's never had hot chocolate." "I'm sure Mr. Choi has had plenty of things I haven't, baby," Imani said gently, feeling the weight of the class difference in every word. His watch alone probably cost more than her car, back when she'd had a car. Jae-hyun's eyes found hers again, and this time she saw something sharpen in his gaze. "You'd be surprised what I've missed," he said quietly. Before Imani could respond, Aaliyah tugged on her sleeve. "Mama, can we get him hot chocolate too, since his date left him?" "Aaliyah, we can't just—" Imani started, but Jae-hyun interrupted. "I would be honored," he said, his tone formal but warm. "But please, allow me to buy for all of us. It's the least I can do for the company." "We can't accept," Imani began, pride straightening her spine. "Please." Something in his voice made her pause. "I would very much like to know what I've been missing. And your daughter is right. Being alone is not how I intended to spend this afternoon." Imani looked at him, really looked. Beneath the expensive clothes and commanding presence, she saw loneliness. The kind that matched the ache in her own chest, the one she carried every day as she worked double shifts and worried about rent, and wondered if she was enough for her daughter. "All right," she said softly, "but just hot chocolate. We can't stay long." Aaliyah's squeal of delight made several patrons turn, but Imani barely noticed. She was too focused on the way Jae-hyun's expression softened, the careful walls cracking just enough to let her see the man beneath. As he called over a server with the subtle authority of someone used to being obeyed, Imani wondered what kind of man got stood up on a date, and more pressingly, why she already cared about the answer. 3 weeks later, Imani stared at the hospital bill in her trembling hands and felt her world narrow to a single terrifying number: $18,000. Aaliyah's emergency appendectomy had saved her daughter's life, but it had also destroyed any hope of financial stability Imani had been clinging to. "Ms. Brooks?" The hospital administrator's voice was sympathetic but firm. "We need to discuss payment options." "I understand," Imani heard herself say, though she understood nothing except that she was drowning. "I'll figure something out." She left the office on shaking legs, her phone already pressed to her ear as she called her boss at the diner where she'd finally landed a job. "Marcus, I know I just started, but I need to pick up more shifts, as many as you can give me. Doubles, triples, I don't care. Imani, you're already working 6 days a week. And didn't your daughter just get out of the hospital?" "She's staying with my neighbor. I need the hours, Marcus, please." The silence on the other end spoke volumes. "I'll see what I can do. But Imani, there's only so many hours in a day." She knew. God, she knew. But what choice did she have? Her phone buzzed with a text as she headed toward the bus stop. Unknown number. "Is this Imani from Moonlight Cafe?" Her finger hovered over the delete button. Then, "This is Jae-hyun. Your daughter left her stuffed rabbit at the cafe. The owner saved it." Imani's breath caught. She'd been so focused on Aaliyah's sudden stomach pain that night that she hadn't even realized Mr. Hoppy was missing. Aaliyah had been asking about him for days. "Thank you," she texted back. "I'll try to pick it up this week." The response came immediately. "I have it. I asked the owner for your number. I hope that's not inappropriate." It probably was. But right now, knowing she could give Aaliyah her beloved rabbit back was the only bright spot in her disaster of a day. "Can I meet you at the cafe tomorrow evening?" she texted. "Around 6. I'll be there." Jae-hyun arrived at Moonlight Cafe 20 minutes early, the stuffed rabbit sitting on his lap, and wondered if he'd completely lost his mind. He'd built an empire on cold calculation and ruthless efficiency. He didn't chase after women. He didn't save stuffed animals. He certainly didn't spend 3 weeks thinking about warm brown eyes and a little girl's innocent question about why he looked sad. But he'd done all of those things. "You're here early," Dae, his second-in-command, noted from his position by the door. "This isn't like you." "Just drive," Jae-hyun said shortly. He knew what his men thought, that he'd gone soft since the accident, that a man in a wheelchair couldn't lead the Baco organization. There had already been whispers of challenges, rivals circling like sharks who smelled blood in the water. Let them try. He'd built his reputation on being 3 steps ahead of everyone else. The wheelchair hadn't changed that. If anything, it had made him more dangerous. He had nothing left to lose except what truly mattered. The door chimed at exactly 6 o'clock. Imani entered, and Jae-hyun felt his chest tighten at the sight of her. She looked exhausted, shadows under her eyes, shoulders slumped with invisible weight. She'd pulled her coils back into a ponytail, revealing the elegant line of her neck. She wore the same diner uniform he'd seen through the window of Rosie's place when he'd driven past earlier, checking to make sure he had the right location. "Hi," she said softly, approaching his table. "I'm sorry. I came straight from work." "You work at Rosie's diner?" The words came out before he could stop them. She blinked, surprise crossing her features. "How did you— I saw you through the window last week." He gestured to the seat across from him. "Please, sit." She did, her gaze landing on the stuffed rabbit. "Oh, Mr. Hoppy." Aaliyah has been heartbroken. She reached for it and Jae-hyun saw her hands were shaking. "Thank you so much for keeping him safe. Where is Aaliyah tonight?" "With my neighbor. She just got out of the hospital." Imani's voice cracked slightly, and she looked away. "Emergency appendectomy. She's fine now, but the bills aren't." Jae-hyun finished quietly. Her eyes snapped to his, pride and pain warring in their depths. "I'll handle it. I'm sure you will." He studied her for a moment. "How much?" "That's not your concern." "How much, Imani?" Her name felt right in his mouth, intimate in a way that should have concerned him. She stood abruptly. "Thank you for returning, Mr. Hoppy. I should go— $18,437. Jae-hyun watched her freeze. "That's the standard cost for pediatric appendectomy at Chicago Memorial, including 3-night stay and follow-up care. How close am I?" The color drained from her face. "How could you possibly— Sit down, please." He waited until she slowly sank back into the chair. "I'm offering you a job." "A job?" Her voice was flat with disbelief. "My personal assistant quit last week. She said working for me was too demanding." He kept his tone even, businesslike. "I need someone organized, reliable, and unafraid to speak their mind. Your daughter already proved you raised someone with that quality. You want to hire me because my 6-year-old asked you why you looked sad. I want to hire you because you've been working 2 jobs while raising a daughter alone, and you still took time to make sure a stranger wasn't lonely." He leaned forward. "The salary is $90,000 a year, plus health insurance that will cover Aaliyah's hospital bills." Imani's sharp intake of breath was audible. "That's— You can't be serious." "I'm always serious." Jae-hyun pulled out a business card, sliding it across the table. "Come to this address tomorrow morning at 9. We'll discuss the details." She stared at the card like it might bite her. "What's the catch?" "No catch. I need an assistant. You need money. It's a simple transaction." "Nothing is simple with men like you," Imani said quietly, "and I don't even know what you do. For all I know, you could be— Dangerous?" Jae-hyun supplied. "I am, but not to you. Never to you or your daughter." The certainty in his voice made something shift in her expression. She picked up the card, her fingers brushing his for a brief moment that sent electricity racing up his arm. "Why me? You could hire anyone. But I'm offering it to you." He held her gaze. "Take the night to think about it. But Imani, the hospital will start collection procedures in 30 days. You don't have time to be proud." Her jaw tightened. "I'll think about it." She stood, clutching the stuffed rabbit and his business card like lifelines. At the door she paused and looked back at him. "That woman who stood you up, she's an idiot." Then she was gone, leaving Jae-hyun alone with the ghost of her words and the absolute certainty that he'd just done something that would change everything. His phone buzzed. Text from Daug. "The park organization is making moves. They want a meeting." Jae-hyun deleted the message. Tomorrow he would deal with rivals and threats and the brutal reality of his world. Tonight, he would allow himself to imagine what it might be like to have someone look at him the way Imani had, not with pity or fear, but with something that felt dangerously like hope. Imani stood outside the glass tower in downtown Chicago, its height making her dizzy as she craned her neck upward. The address on Jae-hyun's card led here to one of the most expensive buildings in the city. She'd researched Choi Jae-hyun last night until her eyes burned. Import-export business, multiple properties, connections that made her stomach churn with warning bells she was choosing to ignore. She needed this job. Aaliyah needed this job. Pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. The lobby was all marble and chrome, intimidatingly beautiful. A receptionist looked up as she approached, taking in her carefully pressed blouse and slacks, the nicest clothes she owned, which still felt shabby in this place. "I'm here to see Mr. Choi," Imani said, lifting her chin. "He's expecting me." "Name?" "Imani Brooks." The receptionist's expression shifted from cool professionalism to something warmer. Ah, yes. Mr. Choi said to send you directly up. Penthouse floor. She handed over a key card. This will give you access. The elevator ride felt endless. Imani watched the floor numbers climb, 30, 40, 50, and wondered what she was walking into. The doors finally opened directly into a massive penthouse office, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view of Chicago that took her breath away. Jae-hyun sat behind an enormous desk, his wheelchair barely visible from this angle. He looked up as she entered, and something in his expression eased. You came. You paid off Aliyah's hospital bill last night. The words came out sharper than she intended. The hospital called me at 6 this morning to tell me my balance was 0. Yes, I didn't accept the job yet. I know. He gestured to the chair across from him. Consider it a signing bonus. You can refuse the position if you want. The bill is still paid. Imani's throat tightened. Why would you do that? Because your daughter needed surgery, and you shouldn't have to choose between her health and keeping a roof over your heads. He said it like it was the simplest thing in the world. Do you want the job or not? She should say no. Every instinct screamed that accepting help from this man would complicate her life in ways she couldn't imagine. But she looked at him, really looked, and saw the loneliness she'd glimpsed at the cafe deeper now, like a wound that never healed. What would I actually be doing? She asked carefully. Managing my schedule, taking calls, organizing meetings. He paused. Sometimes accompanying me to events. Being present. Being present, she repeated. That's vague. I need someone I can trust in my space. Someone who won't run when things get difficult. His eyes locked on hers. I think you're that person. You don't know me. I know you keep promises to your daughter even when you can barely afford to. I know you stopped to sit with a stranger because your child thought he looked sad. I know you've been working yourself to exhaustion trying to hold your world together. His voice dropped lower. I know what that feels like. The vulnerability in those words cracked something in her chest. Okay, she heard herself say. I'll take the job, but I have conditions. Name them. I pick Aliyah up from school every day at 3:30, no exceptions. And if she's sick, I go to her. No matter what meeting you have. Agreed. And this is purely professional. Boss and employee. Nothing else. Something flickered in Jae-hyun's expression. Disappointment maybe, or relief. Of course. Good. Imani stood, extending her hand. When do I start? He took her hand, his grip firm and warm. The contact sent shivers up her arm that she absolutely refused to acknowledge. Now, I have a meeting in an hour with some business partners. You'll sit in, take notes. What kind of business partners? The kind who will test you. He released her hand slowly. Some of them won't like that I hired you. They'll say things. Do you trust yourself to handle it? The question was a challenge. Imani met it head-on. I've been handling men who underestimate me my whole life, Mr. Choi. Your business partners don't scare me. Jae-hyun, he corrected. If we're going to work together, use my name. Jae-hyun, she repeated, the syllables foreign but not unpleasant on her tongue. Better. He pressed a button on his desk. Day will show you to your office. Get familiar with my calendar. The meeting is at 11. The meeting was exactly as awful as Jae-hyun had warned. 5 men in expensive suits, their eyes tracking Imani's every move with expressions ranging from skepticism to outright hostility. She sat in the corner, laptop open, taking notes while they discussed shipping routes and profit margins and schedules that felt suspiciously vague. This is your new assistant, one man asked in Korean, clearly not expecting her to understand. She's very decorative. Imani's pen stilled on the paper. She didn't speak Korean, but tone was universal. Speak English, Jae-hyun said coldly, his voice dropping into something dangerous. Or don't speak at all. The room went silent. The man who'd spoken flushed red. My apologies. I meant no disrespect. You meant exactly disrespect. Jae-hyun's hands were flat on the table, knuckles white. Ms. Brooks is my assistant because she's competent, intelligent, and loyal. If anyone has a problem with that, there's the door. No one moved. Good. Jae-hyun turned his attention back to the papers in front of him. Now, about the shipment from Busan. Imani kept taking notes, but her heart was pounding. She'd expected to have to defend herself. She hadn't expected Jae-hyun to do it for her with such absolute authority that the room seemed to shrink around him. The meeting ended 40 minutes later. As the men filed out, one lingered, younger than the others, with sharp features and calculating eyes. Jae-hyun, he said in English. A word. Imani, give us a moment, Jae-hyun said quietly. She stood, gathering her laptop. As she passed the younger man, he smiled at her, cold and assessing. "Welcome to the organization, Ms. Brooks. I hope you survive it." The door closed behind her, but she could still hear raised voices through the thick wood. Korean, rapid and angry. Then Jae-hyun's voice, low and deadly. "Touch her and die." Imani pressed her back against the wall, her breath coming too fast. What had she walked into? The door opened. The younger man emerged, his expression dark. He barely glanced at her as he strode past, but she felt the weight of his anger like a physical presence. "Imani," Jae-hyun's voice called from inside. "Come back in." She did, closing the door carefully behind her. What was that about? Park Min-ho expressing his displeasure with my choice of assistant. Jae-hyun's expression was carved from stone. He'll get over it. And if he doesn't, then he'll learn why challenging me is a mistake. He studied her face. "Are you afraid?" Imani thought about it. She should be. Everything about this screamed danger. But when she looked at Jae-hyun, she didn't see a threat. She saw a man fighting to hold on to power in a world that wanted to take it from him. "No," she said honestly. "Should I be?" "Probably." His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "But I'm glad you're not." Her phone buzzed. Text from her neighbor. "Aaliyah is asking when you'll be home. She wants to show you her homework." Reality crashed back in. "I need to go pick up my daughter." "Of course." Jae-hyun glanced at his watch. "It's only noon. Take the rest of the day. Get settled. Tomorrow we'll start properly." "You're paying me to work full days. I'm paying you to be present when I need you. Today your daughter needs you more." He held her gaze. "Go, Imani." She nodded, gathering her things. At the door she paused. "Thank you for what you said in the meeting." "I meant every word." The intensity in his voice made her breath catch. "No one disrespects you. Not in my presence." Imani left before she could examine why those words made her heart race. But in the elevator, alone with her reflection, she couldn't deny the truth staring back at her. She was in way over her head, and the scariest part was how much she didn't want to leave. 2 months into her new job, Imani had learned 3 things about Choi Jae-hyun. He never slept more than 4 hours a night, he hated being pitied, and he was absolutely, devastatingly dangerous when someone threatened what was his. She learned that last part when Park Min-ho made his move. It started with a text message she wasn't supposed to see, Jae-hyun's phone lighting up on his desk while he was in a meeting. Imani glanced over, meaning to silence it, and froze at the preview. "Your pretty assistant's daughter goes to Lincoln Elementary. Cute kid. Be a shame if—" She grabbed the phone, her hands shaking. The meeting room was 20 feet away, visible through the glass wall. Jae-hyun sat at the head of the table, his attention focused on the men presenting shipment schedules. She couldn't interrupt, but she also couldn't breathe. Her own phone buzzed. "Unknown number, check your email." The attachment was a photo of Aaliyah leaving school that afternoon, Imani's neighbor walking beside her. The angle suggested it had been taken from a car across the street. Imani's vision went red. She was halfway to the elevator before rational thought returned. She couldn't just run. She needed Jae-hyun. She needed— The meeting room door opened. Jae-hyun emerged, his eyes immediately finding hers across the office. Whatever he saw in her expression made him move faster than she'd ever seen, the wheelchair's motor humming as he crossed the space between them. "What happened?" His voice was deadly calm. "Your phone—" She thrust it at him, unable to form complete sentences. "Aaliyah, they sent a photo." Jae-hyun took the phone, read the message, and went completely still. When he looked up, his eyes held something that made her understand exactly why people feared him. "Dae," he called, not raising his voice but somehow making it carry. "Get the car. Now." "Jae-hyun? Where is Aaliyah now?" His focus was entirely on her, intense and absolute. "With my neighbor, at my apartment. But if they were watching the school, they won't touch her." He said it with such certainty that some of her panic eased. "I promise you, Imani, they won't touch her." "How can you be sure?" "Because Min-ho knows that if he does, I will burn his entire organization to the ground." Jae-hyun's phone was already at his ear, rapid Korean spilling out as he gave orders to whoever answered. Then to her, "We're going to get your daughter right now." "We? You think I'm letting you out of my sight when someone just threatened you?" His jaw was tight with controlled fury. "Get your things. We leave in 60 seconds. The car ride to her apartment took 15 minutes that felt like hours. Jae-hyun spent the entire time on the phone, his voice switching between English and Korean as he coordinated with people Imani couldn't see. She caught words like security, surveillance, and eliminate the threat. "What are you doing?" she asked quietly when he ended another call. "Protecting what's mine." The words came out before he seemed to register them. He looked at her, something raw in his expression. "I mean, I know what you meant." Her voice was barely a whisper. When they arrived at her building, a weathered 3-story walk-up in a neighborhood that Charity called up and coming, Jae-hyun stared at the crumbling steps with barely concealed frustration. "How do you—" "I carry you," Dae said simply from the driver's seat, "or we call Miss Brooks's neighbor down." "No." Imani was already out of the car. "I'll get Aaliyah. You two stay here where people can see you. If they're watching, let them see we're not afraid." Jae-hyun caught her wrist, his grip gentle but insistent. "Imani." "What?" "5 minutes. If you're not back in 5 minutes, I'm coming up, stairs or not." She nodded, pulling free and running for the entrance. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, answered on the first knock, Aaliyah visible behind her watching cartoons and completely oblivious to the danger that had circled her today. "Baby girl," Imani breathed, pulling her daughter into her arms. "We need to go." "But Mama, my show—" "Now, Aaliyah." Something in her tone made her daughter's eyes widen. Mrs. Chen handed over Aaliyah's backpack. "Everything okay, dear?" "Yes. Thank you for watching her. I'll call you later." She didn't breathe properly until they were back in the car, Aaliyah tucked against her side, Jae-hyun's eyes dark with an emotion she couldn't name. "Who's he?" Aaliyah asked, pointing at Jae-hyun with her usual lack of filter. "This is Mr. Choi. Remember, from the cafe." "Oh." Aaliyah's face lit up. "The sad man. But you look less sad now. Did you finally try hot chocolate?" Despite everything, Jae-hyun's lips twitched. "Not yet. You should. It makes everything better." Aaliyah settled back against Imani with the unshakable confidence of a child who'd never known real fear. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe," Jae-hyun said, his eyes meeting Imani's over Aaliyah's head. "Somewhere no one can hurt you." Somewhere safe turned out to be Jae-hyun's penthouse apartment, 40 stories of luxury that made Imani's modest apartment look like a cardboard box. Aaliyah's eyes went wide as dinner plates as they entered, taking in the soaring ceilings and windows that offered a view of the entire city. "Whoa," she breathed. "Do you live in the clouds?" "Sometimes it feels like it," Jae-hyun admitted. He maneuvered his wheelchair to the kitchen, pressing buttons on a panel that lowered the countertops to his height. "Are you hungry?" "Starving," Aaliyah declared, already exploring with the fearless curiosity that made Imani's heart ache. "Mama, there's a TV bigger than our whole living room." "Aaliyah, don't touch anything," Imani started. "Let her explore," Jae-hyun said quietly. "Everything here is replaceable. Her safety isn't." The weight of those words settled in Imani's chest. "We can't stay here." "You can. You will." He was pulling ingredients from the refrigerator with practiced efficiency, vegetables, rice, meat. "At least until I've dealt with Minho." "Dealt with?" She kept her voice low, aware of Aaliyah in the next room. "What does that mean?" "It means he crossed a line. Threatening you was bad enough. But your daughter," Jae-hyun's hands stilled on the cutting board, "that's unforgivable. This is because of me. Because you hired me. This is because Minho wants my position and thinks I'm weak now." Jae-hyun's voice was hard. "He's about to learn otherwise. I don't want you to do something you'll regret." "The only thing I regret," he interrupted, finally looking at her fully, "is putting you in danger in the first place. I should have anticipated this, should have protected you better. You couldn't have known. I should have." The anguish in his voice was raw. "I know what these men are capable of. I'm one of them, Imani. Or I was before—" He gestured to the wheelchair with barely contained bitterness. "Before the accident," she finished softly. "Before I got careless. Before I trusted the wrong person and paid for it." His laugh was bitter. 2 years ago, I was untouchable. Now I can't even climb a flight of stairs." Imani moved before thinking, crossing the distance between them to kneel beside his wheelchair. "You're not weak. Anyone who thinks that is a fool. You don't know what I've done, what I'm capable of. I know you paid off a stranger's hospital bill without expecting anything in return. I know you defended me in a room full of men who wanted to dismiss me. I know you just promised my daughter she'd be safe, and I believe you." She reached up, her hand cupping his jaw, feeling the tension there. "I don't care what you were. I care who you are now." Jae-hyun's hand came up to cover hers, his fingers trembling slightly. "You should run from me." I'm a single mother with $47 to my name and a daughter who needs stability. I don't have the luxury of running from anything." She smiled sadly. "Besides, I think we both know I stopped wanting to run weeks ago." The air between them went electric. Jae-hyun's eyes darkened, his thumb tracing the line of her wrist where her pulse jumped. "Imani! Mama! Mr. Choi, come look at this view." Alia's voice shattered the moment. They pulled apart, but the awareness lingered. As they joined Alia at the window, watching the city lights spread out beneath them like a carpet of stars, Imani felt the shift in her chest. The moment when everything changed from temporary to something far more dangerous. She was falling for him. For the lonely man in the wheelchair who fought to maintain power in a world that wanted to take it from him. For the person who saw her not as a burden or a charity case, but as someone worth protecting. And judging by the way Jae-hyun's hand found hers in the darkness, the way his fingers laced through hers with possession that felt like a promise, she wasn't falling alone. The war with Park Min-ho lasted 3 days. Imani didn't see most of it. Jae-hyun insisted she and Alia stay in the penthouse under guard while he handled things. But she heard the whispers from Dae and the other men who rotated through, providing security. Shipments intercepted, accounts frozen, allies turned. By the time Jae-hyun returned on the 4th morning, looking exhausted but grimly satisfied, Min-ho's organization was in shambles. "It's done," he said simply, finding Imani in the kitchen where she was making breakfast for Alia. "He's gone. No one will threaten you again." "Gone where?" she asked carefully. "Does it matter?" "Yes." She set down the spatula, turning to face him fully. "Because if you killed him, I need to know what that makes me. Staying here, accepting your protection. I didn't kill him." Jae-hyun's voice was flat, "but I made it clear that if he ever sets foot in Chicago again, I will. He took what he could carry and fled to the West Coast. He won't be back." Relief and something darker twisted in Imani's gut. All because he threatened me? All because he thought he could take what's mine? The possessiveness in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it made heat coil low in her belly. "You and Alia are under my protection now. Anyone who wants to harm you will have to go through me first. We're not yours, aren't you?" He moved closer, the wheelchair nearly silent on the hardwood floor. "Tell me you don't feel this thing between us." "I work for you. Fuck the job." The curse, so unlike his usual controlled speech, made her breath catch. "Tell me I'm imagining the way you look at me, the way you touch my hand when you think I won't notice. Tell me you don't lie awake at night wondering what it would be like." "I can't." The admission tore from her throat. "I can't tell you that because it would be a lie." His eyes blazed. "Then what are we doing, Imani? What is this dance we're performing?" "I don't know." She pressed her hands to her face. "You're my boss. You paid off my daughter's hospital bills. You're dangerous and powerful and everything my life isn't, and you what? I care about you," she whispered. "More than I should. More than is smart." Jae-hyun reached out, his fingers wrapping around her wrist and tugging her closer, until she was standing between his knees, his face level with her stomach. "I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since that day in the cafe. Since your daughter asked me why I looked sad, and you apologized for something that was the only real moment I'd had in months. Jae-hyun, I was drowning before you, in bitterness and anger and the absolute certainty that my life was over, that I was useless." His hands moved to her hips, holding her in place. "Then you walked in with your pride and your strength and your ridiculous daughter who has no sense of self-preservation, and suddenly I had a reason to wake up in the morning." Tears pricked Imani's eyes. "This is crazy. We barely know each other. I know you take sugar in your coffee but never cream. I know you sing off-key in the mornings when you think no one's listening. I know you'd burn the world down to protect Alia, and you're the only person besides me who doesn't flinch when I lose my temper." His voice dropped lower. "I know that when you smile at me, really smile, not that polite professional thing you do for everyone else, I feel like maybe I'm not broken after all." "You're not broken," she said fiercely, her hands coming up to frame his face. "You're the strongest person I've ever met. Then let me be strong for you, for both of you." His hands tightened on her hips. "Stay here, not as my employee, not as someone I'm protecting. Stay as mine. I have a 6-year-old daughter, who I would give my life to protect, who already has more courage than most of my men." A smile ghosted across his lips. "She asked me yesterday if I was going to marry you." Imani's breath caught. "What did you tell her?" "That I was working on it." "You're insane." "Probably." He tugged her closer still, until her forehead rested against his. But I meant what I said in the car. You're mine now. Both of you. I just need you to say yes. A yes to what? Moving in, dating? What exactly are you asking? Everything. The word was a vow. I'm asking for everything, Imani. Your trust, your time, your heart, if you'll give it to me. I'm asking you to take a chance on a man in a wheelchair who deals with criminals and can't protect you the way he wants to, but will die trying anyway. Stop. She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. Stop talking about the wheelchair like it defines you. You're Choi Jae-hyun. You're brilliant and fierce and yes, a little bit terrifying. You run an empire from that chair. You took down a rival organization in 72 hours. You make my daughter laugh and you make me feel... Her voice cracked. You make me feel like maybe I'm not alone anymore. Something raw and vulnerable crossed his expression. You're not. You'll never be alone again. Promise? I promise. He leaned forward, his lips brushing her forehead in a gesture so tender it shattered something in her chest. You saved my life that day in the cafe. Now let me spend the rest of mine making sure you never regret it. Mama! Aaliyah's sleepy voice broke through the moment. Why are you crying? Did Mr. Choi make you sad? Imani laughed through her tears, pulling back to look at her daughter standing in the doorway, Mr. Hoppy clutched in one hand. No, baby. I'm happy. Oh, Aaliyah padded over, inserting herself between them with the presumption of childhood. Good, because I like him, he's nice. Am I? Jae-hyun's voice was amused. Yeah, you give good hugs, and you don't get mad when I ask questions. Aaliyah looked up at him seriously. Are you gonna be my daddy now? The question hung in the air. Jae-hyun's eyes found Imani's, asking permission. She nodded, barely able to breathe. I'd like that, he said quietly. If your mama agrees. She agrees, Aaliyah announced confidently. She's been staring at you all googly-eyed for weeks. It's gross. Aaliyah! Imani felt her cheeks burn, but Jae-hyun was laughing, real, genuine laughter that transformed his face into something beautiful. He pulled Aaliyah into his lap, then reached for Imani's hand, tugging her down until she was perched on the armrest, his arm wrapped around her waist. There, he said, looking between them with something like wonder. This is what I've been missing. This is what I thought I'd never have. Imani leaned into him, letting herself believe for the first time that maybe happy endings weren't just for other people. We're a lot of work. Good. His lips brushed her temple. I like a challenge. And we're a package deal. If you want me, you get Aaliyah too. Already established. His arm tightened possessively. Both of you. No negotiations. What if I snore? Aaliyah piped up. Then I'll get earplugs. What if Mama burns dinner? Then we'll order takeout. What if... Aaliyah, Imani interrupted gently. I think we've established Mr. Choi isn't going anywhere. Jae-hyun, he corrected. And you're right, I'm not. He looked at Imani with an intensity that stole her breath. You're stuck with me now, both of you. Later, after Aaliyah had been coaxed back to bed and they were alone again, Jae-hyun pulled Imani onto his lap properly, one hand cupping her face with the reverence usually reserved for something precious. I need to tell you something, he said quietly, about the accident, about why I'm in this chair. You don't have to... I do. His thumb traced her cheekbone. If we're doing this, if you're really staying, you need to know what you're getting into. So she listened as he told her about the rival gang, the ambush, the moment his car went off the bridge and his spine shattered, about waking up in the hospital to find half his organization gone, vultures circling his territory, everyone certain he was finished. They were wrong, Imani said fiercely when he was done. Maybe, but I'm not the man I was. Good. She kissed him then, hard and sure, swallowing his protest. When she pulled back, his eyes were dark with want. Because the man you were wouldn't have saved a stuffed rabbit for a little girl, wouldn't have defended me in front of his entire organization, wouldn't have looked at me like I'm something precious instead of convenient. You are precious, he said roughly. You're everything. Then show me. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Show me what it means to be yours. His hand slid into her hair, tugging her back down until their lips met again. This kiss was different, hungry and claiming, a promise and a warning all at once. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jae-hyun rested his forehead against hers. You saved my life, he repeated. That day in the cafe, when Aaliyah asked why I looked sad. You saved my life. I was so close to giving up, to letting the darkness win. Then you smiled at me like I was worth something, and I remembered what it felt like to hope. We saved each other, Imani corrected softly. I was drowning too. In bills and exhaustion and the fear that I'd never be enough for my daughter. Then you showed me that maybe strength isn't about doing everything alone. Maybe it's about letting someone stand beside you. Or sit, he said with dry humor, gesturing to the wheelchair. Sit then. She kissed him again, softer this time. Sit beside me, and let's figure out this crazy thing together. Deal. His arms wrapped around her waist, holding her close. You and me and Aliyah against the world. And your entire criminal organization. Minor detail. She laughed against his shoulder, letting herself feel the safety of his embrace. Outside, Chicago glittered beneath them, a city full of danger and possibility. But here in this moment, with Jaehyun's heartbeat steady beneath her ear and the promise of tomorrow stretching out ahead, Imani let herself believe in happy endings, even the unexpected kind. Years later, Imani would look back on that morning in the cafe as the moment everything changed, the day her life split into before and after. Loneliness and love, fear, and fierce protection. The penthouse had become home in the months that followed. Aliyah's laughter echoed through rooms that had been silent for too long. Family dinners replaced lonely takeout. And slowly, carefully, Jaehyun's smile became something she saw every day instead of a rare gift. The organization adjusted. Some left, unwilling to follow a man in a wheelchair. Others stayed, their loyalty proven through action rather than words. Jaehyun restructured, legitimized where he could, and ruthlessly eliminated threats to his family, because that's what they were now. Family. Imani learned to navigate his world. The late-night phone calls, the security that became second nature, the careful balance between the legal business and the shadows he couldn't completely escape. She learned to trust that he would always come home, that the promises he made were ones he'd die keeping. Aliyah grew, 8 years old, then 10, then 12, still fearless, still asking questions that made adults uncomfortable. But she never questioned Jaehyun's place in their lives. He'd earned that through 1,000 small moments, homework help and bedtime stories, fierce protection and gentle understanding. He'd become her father in every way that mattered. On a snowy December evening, Jaehyun found Imani standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city lights blur through the falling snow. He moved up behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist, chin resting on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he murmured. "That day in the cafe." She leaned back into him. "What if Aliyah hadn't asked you why you looked sad? What if we'd just walked past? Then I'd probably still be drowning." His lips brushed her temple. "And you'd probably still be working yourself to exhaustion trying to survive. So we saved each other." "We did." His hand moved to her left hand, thumb tracing the ring there, the one he'd given her 6 months ago, in front of Aliyah and a small gathering of people they'd learned to trust. "Best decision I ever made. Asking me to marry you? Letting your daughter ask me why I looked sad." He turned her in his arms, his eyes soft with an emotion that still made her breath catch. She saw me. Really saw me. Not the wheelchair, not the power, not the danger, just a lonely man who needed someone to care. "She gets that from her mother," Imani teased. "I know." His smile was tender. "You both saved me. Now I get to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it." "Gross," Aliyah's voice called from the kitchen. "Stop being mushy and come help me with dinner. Just because you guys are married doesn't mean you get to be annoying." They laughed, the sound twining together in the warm air. As they moved toward the kitchen, toward family and food, and the simple joy of being together, Imani caught Jaehyun's hand. "Hey," she said softly, "I need you to know something." "What? That day in the cafe? When Aliyah asked why you looked sad?" She squeezed his fingers. "You weren't the only one who needed saving. I was drowning too, in fear and exhaustion and the belief that I'd always be alone. Then you looked at me like I was worth something, like my struggles mattered, and I remembered what it felt like to hope. So we really did save each other," he said quietly. "We did." She kissed him, quick and sure. "And we'll keep saving each other, every day, no matter what comes. Even when Aliyah becomes a teenager, even then." His laugh was rich and warm. "Then I guess we better get used to chaos. Wouldn't have it any other way." They joined Aliyah in the kitchen, the three of them falling into the comfortable rhythm of family. And if sometimes Imani caught Jaehyun staring at them with wonder in his eyes, as if he still couldn't quite believe they were real, she understood, because she felt it too, that disbelief that this was her life now, that the lonely man in the cafe had become her husband, that the scared single mother she'd been had found someone who saw her strength instead of her struggles. Love, she'd learned, didn't always arrive the way you expected. Sometimes it came in a wheelchair, with danger trailing behind it, and a broken man asking to be saved. Sometimes you walked into a cafe with your daughter's hand in yours, and walked out with a future you'd never dared to imagine. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, that future became home.